Welcome, beautiful damsels. The most powerful word in any language is no, but the art lies in saying it without ever needing to speak it. In a world obsessed with pleasing others and bending over backward to meet everyone's demands, setting boundaries has become an act of rebellion. Did you know that studies reveal over 70% of people struggle to enforce personal boundaries, leading to chronic stress and burnout? Now imagine a woman who not only sets them effortlessly, but does so with the finesse of a queen commanding her court. That's the Sigma female for you, a force of nature who operates on her own terms, unshaken by societal norms or emotional guilt trips. She doesn't just draw a line in the sand. She builds an impenetrable fortress around her energy, time, and priorities. And the best part, she does it without losing her cool or her humor. After all, why argue when you can smile, sip your coffee, and let your actions say, access denied? So, if you've ever felt drained, overcommitted, or like you're wearing a do not disturb sign no one bothers to read, it's time to learn how to set boundaries like a true Sigma female. Get ready for a masterclass in saying no without ever having to shout it. Number 1. Treat your time like equity in a high-stakes startup. Your time is your most valuable asset, and like equity in a high-stakes startup, it should be invested wisely and with intention. Every minute has potential, either to build something meaningful or to be wasted on things that drain your energy and offer no return. A Sigma female understands this better than most. She doesn't spend time, she invests it, making deliberate choices about where her energy goes and expecting a return in alignment with her goals, values, or personal growth. This approach isn't about being cold or transactional. It's about being unapologetically clear about your priorities. Just like a savvy investor wouldn't pour resources into a failing venture, a Sigma won't waste time on people or activities that don't align with her vision. If someone wants her time, they need to bring something to the table. Respect, reciprocity, or even just a shared sense of purpose. But here's the twist. This isn't something she announces. A Sigma sets this standard without needing to spell it out. People quickly learn that access to her time is a privilege, not a given. When she says no, or even when she simply doesn't show up, it's understood that her absence is intentional, not accidental. This strategic mindset has a ripple effect. It teaches others to value her time because she values it herself. It also forces them to reconsider how they spend their own. By treating her time like equity, a Sigma inspires respect and creates a life free from unnecessary distractions. And in a world where everyone is rushing to be everything for everyone, her quiet focus becomes the ultimate power move. Number 2, detach from the hero complex. The hero complex is a seductive trap. It whispers that you're the one who has to fix everything, save everyone, and be the answer to every problem. It feels noble, even necessary, but in reality it's a fast track to burnout and resentment. A Sigma female sees through this illusion. She knows that constantly rescuing others doesn't make her a savior. It makes her a resource that people take for granted. Detaching from the hero complex doesn't mean she stops caring. It means she learns to care differently. A Sigma understands that protecting her own energy isn't selfish. It's the foundation of true service. You can't pour from an empty cup, and she refuses to drain herself just to keep others afloat. Instead, she empowers people to take responsibility for their own lives. She offers guidance when it's needed, but never at the expense of her own well-being. This detachment requires clarity and courage. A Sigma has to let go of the need for external validation, the pat on the back, the gratitude, the sense of importance that comes from always being the fixer. She chooses a deeper kind of strength, one rooted in knowing her limits and refusing to compromise them, no matter how much pressure she faces. When she steps back, something remarkable happens. People around her begin to grow. They learn to solve their own problems, stand on their own feet, and respect her boundaries. By refusing to be the hero, the Sigma becomes something far more powerful, a role model for self-respect and resilience. Protecting her energy isn't just for her, it's a gift to everyone who's willing to rise to the occasion. Number 3, think in systems, not singularities. Boundaries aren't just one-off decisions, they're frameworks you build to protect your energy, time, and priorities. A Sigma Female doesn't waste time constantly evaluating every request or situation. Instead, she creates systems that make those decisions for her, ensuring that her boundaries are upheld automatically without effort or negotiation. Thinking in systems means designing your life in a way that limits unnecessary access to your resources. It's not about rigid rules, but creating intentional structures. For example, instead of saying no every time someone asks for last-minute help, a Sigma establishes clear availability, perhaps only accepting requests during certain hours or setting a standard for advanced notice. This removes the emotional weight of deciding on the spot and shifts the responsibility to others to respect the system. This approach extends beyond time management. It's about controlling the flow of energy in all areas of life. From setting communication boundaries, like not replying to non-urgent messages during personal time, to creating routines that prioritize self-care, a Sigma ensures her resources are spent where they matter most. Systems also minimize guilt. Instead of feeling obligated to explain herself every time she declines something, her framework speaks for her. Whether it's automated scheduling tools, clearly communicated personal policies, or even unspoken rituals like leaving her phone on silent after 8 p.m., these systems quietly enforce her boundaries. The beauty of this mindset is its efficiency. By thinking in systems, a Sigma eliminates the need for constant vigilance and tough conversations. Her boundaries become seamless, invisible guardrails that guide her interactions and choices. This not only protects her mental bandwidth, but also teaches others to respect her autonomy without resistance. In her world, no isn't just a word, it's a design choice. Number 4. Master the silent no. The silent no is the ultimate power move, a boundary set without a single word spoken. It's not about being passive or evasive. It's about communicating your limits with a level of quiet confidence that leaves no room for debate. A Sigma female understands that actions, or even intentional inaction, often speak louder than words. The silent no can be as simple as not responding to a text demanding your immediate attention or holding a calm, unwavering gaze when someone tries to pressure you. It's the pause before answering, the subtle change in body language, or the deliberate shift of focus to signal that you're disengaging. These non-verbal cues carry an unshakable weight, making it clear that your boundaries are firm without inviting unnecessary confrontation. What makes the silent no so effective is that it redirects the responsibility back to the other person. Without a verbal rejection to argue against, they're left to interpret and adapt. This approach also protects your emotional energy, sparing you from lengthy explanations or debates about your decisions. But mastering the silent no requires self-assurance. You can't waver or second-guess yourself. It's your consistency that reinforces the message. The key is to stay composed and let your silence do the talking. Whether you're walking away from a conversation that's crossed the line or simply ignoring an unreasonable demand, your actions say, "This is my limit, and I don't owe you an explanation." In a world where people often mistake politeness for permission, the silent no reclaims control. It's not about being rude or dismissive, it's about valuing your boundaries enough to let them stand on their own. For a Sigma, the quiet power of the silent no speaks volumes. Number 5. Transform small violations into teachable moments. Small boundary violations might seem harmless, but they're often the cracks where bigger issues begin to form. A Sigma female understands this and knows the importance of addressing these micro-slips as they happen. Not with anger or overreaction, but with calm, deliberate clarity. Every small violation is an opportunity to reinforce her standards and teach others how to interact with her respectfully. For example, if someone interrupts her during a meeting, she doesn't let it slide in the name of keeping the peace. Instead, she might say, "I wasn't finished. Let me complete my point first." It's not about making the other person feel small, but about gently reminding them of her boundaries. This calm but firm approach shifts the dynamic and subtly educates others on what is and isn't acceptable. Transforming small slips into teachable moments also requires consistency. If someone forgets to respect her time by being late, she won't just shrug it off. Instead, she might say, "I value punctuality, so let's make sure we start on time next time." It's not aggressive, but it's clear, and it sets a precedent. The beauty of this approach lies in its balance. By addressing small issues early, the Sigma avoids bigger confrontations down the line. It also encourages others to be more mindful in their interactions with her. Over time, these teachable moments become part of her reputation. She's someone who expects respect and sets a high standard for how she's treated. For a Sigma, every small violation is a chance to solidify her boundaries and strengthen her relationships. It's not just about defending herself. It's about creating an environment where mutual respect becomes the norm. Number 6. Design rituals to reaffirm boundaries. Rituals are the backbone of strong boundaries. They're not just routines, they're deliberate practices that protect your time, energy, and mental space without requiring constant vigilance. A Sigma female knows that rituals aren't just self-care, they're self-defense. They create structure and consistency, making boundaries automatic rather than something you have to negotiate daily. Take a simple ritual like starting each morning with 30 minutes of uninterrupted quiet time. By committing to this, a Sigma sets the tone for her day. She signals to herself and others that her mental clarity is non-negotiable. It's not about being rigid, it's about creating a sanctuary of time that belongs solely to her. A weekly no people day is another example. Whether it's spent reading, hiking, or simply staying offline, this day becomes a sacred ritual to recharge. The beauty of rituals is that they eliminate decision fatigue. Instead of constantly weighing whether to say yes or no, the ritual answers for you. That time is already spoken for. Rituals also send a powerful message to others. They establish expectations without the need for lengthy explanations. For instance, if someone knows you always log off work at 6 p.m. to spend time with family, they're less likely to interrupt that boundary. What makes rituals so effective is their quiet consistency. Over time, they become part of your identity, so much so that people respect them without question. And for a Sigma, this is the ultimate win. Boundaries that enforce themselves, freeing her to focus on what truly matters. By designing rituals, a Sigma doesn't just protect her energy, she elevates her life. Each ritual becomes a small but powerful declaration. This is my time, and I won't compromise it. Number 7. Introduce the concept of reciprocal space. Boundaries often get a bad reputation, as if they're just walls meant to shut people out. But a Sigma female knows that boundaries aren't barriers, they're bridges. She introduces the concept of reciprocal space, where her boundaries not only protect her but create clarity and respect for everyone involved. Reciprocal space means understanding that a boundary isn't a selfish act. It's a mutual agreement that benefits both sides. When a Sigma says no to a last-minute demand, it's not just about preserving her time. It's about teaching others the value of preparation and respect. When she doesn't answer a late-night text, it's not to be dismissive, but to show that healthy communication thrives within reasonable limits. This concept flips the narrative. Instead of framing boundaries as restrictive, a Sigma shows how they create balance. For example, by setting clear expectations in a friendship or work relationship, she avoids misunderstandings, resentment, or unmet needs. Her boundaries become a framework where others know what to expect, fostering smoother interactions and mutual trust. The genius of reciprocal space is that it diffuses defensiveness. When others see how her boundaries benefit them, whether by encouraging independence, reducing conflict, or clarifying roles, they're more likely to respect them. A Sigma might say, by keeping our meetings focused, we'll save time for both of us. Or, if I can't help this time, you'll learn to tackle it on your own, which is empowering. Reciprocal space isn't about enforcing rules. It's about creating a dynamic where boundaries feel fair and empowering. For a Sigma, this isn't just a tactic, it's a philosophy. By valuing her own needs while respecting others, she cultivates relationships built on mutual respect, not obligation. Number 8. Enforce with consequences, not words. A Sigma female knows that boundaries mean little without action. She understands that words alone rarely change behavior. It's the consequences that leave an impact. Instead of engaging in endless explanations or debates about her boundaries, she enforces them with deliberate, decisive action. Her mantra is simple: actions speak louder than words. When someone crosses a line, a Sigma doesn't waste time pleading or justifying herself. Instead, she lets her response do the talking. If a colleague consistently disrespects her time, she might stop offering help or availability. If a friend repeatedly ignores her boundaries, she may quietly withdraw from the relationship or reduce her engagement. These actions aren't about punishment. They're about showing that access to her time, energy, or support is earned through mutual respect. The brilliance of enforcing boundaries with consequences is its efficiency. It eliminates the need for constant confrontation or emotional exhaustion. A Sigma doesn't need to argue or over-explain because her actions speak for her. People quickly learn that her limits aren't flexible, and any attempt to test them results in immediate, tangible change. This approach also places the responsibility where it belongs, on the other person. When they face the consequences of their actions, they're forced to reflect and adjust. A Sigma's boundaries become self-reinforcing, requiring less effort over time as others learn to respect her limits. For a Sigma, enforcing boundaries isn't about creating drama, it's about maintaining peace. By removing access, withdrawing support, or redirecting energy, she preserves her resources while teaching others how to treat her. It's not just effective, it's empowering. Number 9, reject the good girl script entirely. A Sigma. Female rejects the good girl script with unapologetic clarity. She doesn't conform to society's outdated expectations of being compliant, passive, or always putting others before herself. She understands that true strength lies in self-ownership, and she refuses to shrink or compromise to fit a mold. For her, boundaries aren't just about protecting her time or space. They're about redefining what it means to be strong, powerful, and feminine. In a world that often expects women to be people-pleasers or to smooth things over for the sake of harmony, a Sigma disrupts these norms. She isn't interested in being liked or accepted by those who can't respect her boundaries. Instead, she's committed to showing that strength doesn't come from sacrificing oneself. It comes from standing firm in your values and demands, regardless of the pressure to conform. By rejecting the good girl script, a Sigma doesn't just refuse to be passive. She actively redefines what strong femininity looks like. She speaks her mind, stands her ground, and values herself too much to settle for anything less than respect. She doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. Her boundaries speak for her, and they say, "I am enough, just as I am, and I expect you to treat me with that same recognition." This rejection isn't an act of rebellion for the sake of it. It's a recognition of her own worth. The Sigma understands that true empowerment comes from knowing your own value and refusing to apologize for it. She challenges outdated expectations, and in doing so, she shows the world a new vision of what it means to be both strong and feminine, uncompromising, unapologetic, and fiercely authentic. Number 10. Refuse the urge to over-explain. A Sigma female knows that when it comes to setting boundaries, less is often more. She refuses the urge to over-explain because she understands that doing so diminishes her authority and power. When she sets a boundary, she states it clearly and confidently, and then she lets the silence speak for itself. There's no need for long-winded justifications or excuses. Her boundaries are an expression of her self-respect, and that alone is enough. Over-explaining opens the door to negotiation and creates an opportunity for others to challenge her limits. It suggests that her decision isn't final and that she's open to persuasion. But a Sigma isn't interested in endless discussions about why her boundary is necessary. When she says no or sets a limit, she doesn't feel the need to justify herself. She knows her worth, and she trusts that those who respect her will accept her boundaries without question. By refusing to over-explain, a Sigma reinforces her authority and keeps the energy around her clear and decisive. The message is simple. This is who I am. This is what I need, and there's nothing more to say. People around her quickly learn that her boundaries are firm, and any attempt to push past them is met with quiet resistance, not a drawn-out explanation. Over time, this approach fosters respect. Others stop questioning her decisions, and begin to understand that her boundaries aren't up for negotiation. For a Sigma, every word spoken in defense of her limits carries weight, and when she chooses silence, it speaks volumes. In the end, setting boundaries like a true Sigma female isn't just a tactic. It's a lifestyle, a mindset, and a form of self-respect that radiates from within. It's not about being rigid or unapproachable. It's about carving out a life where your time, energy, and values are non-negotiable. The Sigma doesn't beg for respect. She commands it by living in alignment with her own truth and setting standards that are as unshakable as the core of who she is. When you set boundaries with the elegance of a Sigma, you stop being at the mercy of external demands and start creating an environment where your presence is valued because you've taught others how to respect your limits. Every no becomes a quiet declaration of self-worth, and every boundary reinforces a life that's lived intentionally, not by default. In a world that often tries to erase or minimize women's needs, the Sigma female boldly rewrites the narrative. She doesn't apologize for her strength, her independence, or her uncompromising boundaries. She's the architect of her own life, and she builds it with care, purpose, and a steadfast belief that her needs are just as important as anyone else's. So remember this: boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're the foundation for creating the life you truly deserve. As a Sigma, you don't just protect your energy, you define the space where you can thrive, unapologetically, and without compromise. Because the world needs women who know exactly who they are, what they want, and are willing to do whatever it takes to protect their peace. You're not just setting boundaries, you're shaping your own legacy. If you found this empowering and want to keep leveling up your life, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share this video with anyone who needs to hear this message. Let's keep spreading the power of boundaries together. And as we step into the new year, may it be filled with strength, clarity, and the courage to set unapologetic boundaries. Happy New Year to you all. Here's to an amazing year ahead. Thanks, damsels, for tuning in. See you in the next vid. Bye, and stay blessed.